Good afternoon and welcome to today's Inclusion Works Lunch and Learn. Before we get started, here are a few reminders about the webinar. Please make sure you're using a computer or smartphone connected to the internet and the audio function is on and the volume is turned up. Please be sure your microphone is muted for the duration of the webinar. To ask questions, use the Q&A feature located on your control panel, and we will answer as many questions as time allows toward the end of the presentation. American Sign Language interpreters and closed captioning options are available for today's event. The American Sign Language interpreters for today is Danette Stillman Bridges, and Susan King Lanner. For closed captioning options, select the closed caption feature located on your control panel. To adjust your video layout and screen view, select the view feature located in the top right-hand corner of your screen and choose the view that works best for you. Today's agenda topics includes introductions and an overview of Project Spark. There will also be time for questions after the presentation. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Claire Colligan, IDD Employment Lead for the IDD, TBI, and Olmsted section of the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here today. I'm so excited to see so many people joining this call. It has been quite a while since we had some folks here to explain to us what is happening with our Spark program, the progress that is being made, and what we're looking towards for in the future. And so I'm really excited to give you the opportunity to hear this today. And the first thing that I would really like to do is to introduce you to Alma Taylor of EIPD. Hi, Alma. Welcome aboard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alma Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director for Staff Acquisition and Employment Initiatives with the Division of Employment and Independence for People with Disabilities. We are formerly the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services. We have a different name, but the same mission, and that is to assist individuals with disabilities to go to work. And I'm now going to be joined on this PowerPoint presentation throughout this hour with you by Shane Ross, who is our SWTC Grant Director, and in North Carolina, that is the Spark Project. And then Bridget Hussain, our Spark Project Manager. So as you see, they have the Division of Vocational Rehab Services. But again, I want to reemphasize that we are the same agency and just different name, but same mission. Next slide. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to provide an overview of Project Spark, or SWTC, and I'll go through that with you all. SWTC, Subminimum Wage to Competitive Integrated Employment. It's a national grant, and I have a few bullet points I'll talk about that. But I thought, just for the audience sake, for those of you that might be kind of new to this project, a little bit about subminimum wage. So the Fair Labor Standards Act is a federal law administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, and they set standards for minimum wage, overtime, record keeping, youth employment, etc. There's what's called the Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standard Act that authorizes employers, after receiving a wage and hour certificate, to pay some sub-minimum wages to people with disabilities. This was established long ago, almost back in 1938, really established for soldiers that were returning home from war who had acquired disabilities and created opportunities for them to work. Obviously, it's evolved over time since 1938, but still in existence today in 2026. To date, there are about 30 14C holders in the state of North Carolina, and there's a little over 1,000 people, North Carolinians with disabilities, working in sub-minimum wage as of February. Those numbers are debatable, but that's what the latest labor statistics show that's available to the public. So SWITSE, which is a mouthful, it's through the Department of Education's Rehab Services Administration, RSA, and it's what's called a Disability Innovation Fund. And there are a number of DIF grants currently being implemented and operated throughout the United States, but this one is specific to sub-minimum wage employment. SWITSE was branded Project Spark here in North Carolina. We have a state advisory group that one of their first tasks was to brand the initiative, and we've been referring to ourselves as Project Spark ever since then. So there's kind of a macro level and a micro level to Project Spark here in North Carolina. On a micro level, it's the 3 bullets that you see below. It's to increase competitive integrated employment opportunities for students and adults with intellectual developmental disabilities who fit into 3 categories. 1, they're currently working in sub-minimum wage employment for one of those 30 providers, those 30 employers that I described initially. They're contemplating sub-minimum wage employment, or they're at risk of sub-minimum wage employment. And now there's a caveat to the at-risk category. That's for people who are currently competitively employed, but at risk of losing their job and ending up in sub-minimum wage employment. Next slide, please. In terms of SWITSE, North Carolina was one of 14 states that selected to participate in the 5-year initiative. One state, that being Florida, backed out about a year ago or so this time and returned those grant dollars. North Carolina received right around $14 million for the grant. It's a 5-year project. We are halfway through year 4, and we have over $9 million remaining. And that's why we certainly took Claire up on the invitation to come and do this lunch and learn today, because we really want to get the word out there as we wind down the grant and invest those dollars in North Carolinians the best that we can before the conclusion of the grant. I talked about from a macro perspective, and I should have gone into that piece prior to transitioning, but this is a good spot for it here. On a macro perspective, this isn't just about one-offs in terms of people that fit into those 3 categories that I described, transitioning to competitive integrated employment. It's also about, on a macro level, it's about systems transformation. And when you see the number of states that are participating in this, those are really states that either held a 14C certificate prior to the beginning of SWITSE or continue to hold one now. So it's really about systems transformation, because the viewpoint of those that develop this DIF grant is that sub-minimum wage employment isn't a necessity any longer in today's society, and it's really an effort to phase out the practice of paying sub-minimum wage in total. But you'll see on that last bullet there that all 13 states are underperforming and underspending. And while there's a lot of variables contributing to that underperforming, still today the biggest barrier to our success is really the value placed on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their ability to contribute to the workforce. And that not only comes from it comes from a lot of different directions, and we don't need to dive into each one of them, but it comes from a lot of different directions. There's a lot of contributing factors to that mindset, and again, that's part of what Project Spark is about, to break down those barriers and to change and shift that mindset. Next slide, please. Just to kind of take you through the first few years. Year 1 was really just about developing the infrastructure. We really wanted to have a number of CRPs, community rehab programs, statewide across all 3 regions participating in Project Spark. Ultimately, the response to the RFAs was kind of minimal, quite frankly. But we ended up with 3 great partner organizations, 2 in the central region, 1 in the east, which Bridget will be talking about here soon. So we got things developed with them in year 1. In years 2 and 3, we got contracts done, things executed. We had to bring staff onto the sites. We started our outreach, started receiving referrals. We started enrolling people, and we implemented services in years 2 and 3. And right here in year 4, services continue. And in order to grow our geographic reach within Project Spark, we've implemented and operationalized many sites, which Alma will be talking about towards the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So what are our goals for Project Spark? We are striving to contact 700 people, 500 adults, 200 students. When we say contact, that means that we engage with the person, we get to know them, we get their information, and we try to figure out if Project Spark is right for them and if they can benefit from Project Spark. We look to enroll 450 of those 700 contact, 300 adults and 150 students, and ultimately employ 250 of them. 25 transitioning out of sub-minimum wage employment, 225 contemplating sub-minimum wage employment. You'll see there that third bucket of people who are currently competitively employed but at risk of sub-minimum wage employment, they don't show up in that data piece because that bucket, that eligibility criteria was added fairly recently in the summer of 25, so it doesn't count within our numbers. Next slide, please. So here's our progress. And again, we're underperforming, we're underspending, but we're still doing great work. So these numbers are through December. So thus far, we've contacted 186 people and really split almost right down the middle between adults and students. We're about 27% of the way there. We've enrolled 177. Again, a pretty close split, 68 adults and 79 students. And to date, through December, 28 of them have achieved competitive integrated employment. 4 transitioned out of sub-minimum wage employment, and 24 were contemplating sub-minimum wage employment. And that trend there in that last bullet, I just wanted to spend a minute talking about. We've really seen that across the board among the 13 states participating in SWITSI. We're seeing many more people be diverted from considering sub-minimum wage employment to competitive integrated employment through the SWITSI grant. We've also seen progress within the states participating within SWITSI. For example, California, effective January 1st of 2025, eliminated the use of 14C certificates. Now, every person living in California, disability or not, is earning at or above minimum wage. So while we're yet to achieve the numbers that we're aspiring towards, we in the other 12 states are making progress. And with that, I will turn it over to Bridget.
Hello, thanks, Shane. So let me just say right out of the gate that the data that Shane pulled was through the end of December. The data that I'm going to show you is reflected through February 13th, so Friday the 13th. So our numbers are going to be slightly different. Next slide, please. So we have 3 project sites that we are working with: Tri-County Industries and Rocky Mount. That's our one in the east, our provider in the east. And then Wake Enterprises and Chatham Trades. Wake Enterprises is obviously in Raleigh. Chatham Trades is in Siler City. As we were actually looking at providers, we really wanted to find one that was urban, one that was half and half urban and rural, and one that was rural. So Wake Enterprises is obviously our urban provider. Tri-County Industries is that half and half, though it does tend to be more rural than I think that we expected. And Chatham Trades is our rural provider. Next slide, please. So right now, Tri-County Industries in Rocky Mount is serving 60 people in employment. All of the people that they're serving on the Spark program are working in the community. And they also are doing a wraparound service called community engagement. So every single person that is receiving Spark services with them is also receiving community engagement as an add-on wraparound service that is available from Spark. So Spark is different than other supported employment services through EIPD because we did include the wraparound services. So I'm going to go through some of those. Community engagement is one of them. The next is transportation, and Tri-County Industries is providing transportation to all 60 people, meaning that they are responsible for either providing the transportation themselves or getting a transportation provider in place for each person. So they can get to and from their jobs and or to and from their community engagement place. There are limited public transportation options in Tri-County, so they have hired a lot of providers. One of their biggest expenses with Spark so far, other than staff, is the cost of transportation. I'm guessing that doesn't surprise anybody on this call. Right now, they have 6 people that are in CIE and job retention, meaning that their cases have closed or are about to close with EIPD. And will be considered a 26 closure with EIPD. They currently have 9 staff on their teams. Every team started out with 6. As they have grown and started supporting more people, we have added more peer supports and we've added more employment specialists. And TCI has chosen to add a staff person specifically to ensure that they are providing community engagement to everybody on their team. Every one of our sites has a community navigator, a admin support, at least 2 employment specialists. TCI has more than, they have 4. At least 1 peer mentor. TCI has 2, and a benefits counselor. So that's who makes up a Spark team, so that every single person that comes in the door gets all of those services to make it a comprehensive service for somebody that's working outside of just employment. So we take it beyond employment. Next slide, please. I think you went backwards. There we go. Okay, Wake Enterprises. They are currently serving 67 people, and they're in their employment services through EIPD. They have 30 to 8 people that they are providing a community engagement. Not everybody wants or needs the Spark team to get community engagement, but it is offered to everybody. They are providing or scheduling transportation for 32 people on a weekly basis. And in Raleigh, obviously, there are more options for transportation. So they do a lot of transportation training as part of the services. They are supporting 11 people in CIE in job retention. Again, those people are either all of them are working, and they're either coming up or have closed with EIPD, again, a successful 26. There are currently 7 staff at Wake Enterprises on the Spark team. They have added, from the original 6, they have added an employment specialist. Actually, they've added 2 employment specialists, sorry. And they have really struggled with getting and maintaining their staff. Again, I'm sure that doesn't surprise anybody. But that's been their biggest problem, and not just at the frontline staff level, it's also at their leadership level. They've had a lot of turnover. Next slide, please. Okay, our third site is Chatham Trades. Chatham Trades obviously is a smaller program because it's very rural. They're currently serving 19 people, and 6 of those are routinely getting community engagement. They are providing or scheduling, mostly providing transportation for 7 people on a regular basis. They have 4 people that they're supporting in CIE. They are a really rural community, so transportation options are severely limited, and the staff struggle with trying to figure out how to get people to and from places. Again, I'm sure that's not a surprise to anybody. And they still only have 6 people on their Spark team because they're a smaller program. Next slide, please. So this is what we've learned so far. We have a peer mentor, an IDD peer mentor on each one of our teams, and that position has made significant impact. It's that position has become a key in the success of the people that we're supporting and keeping them engaged and keeping them moving forward and finding answers to their problems. Each one of our teams provides a resource manual for everybody, and the peers are the ones that typically are updating and maintaining that resource guide. Every single person on getting Spark services is supported by a benefit counselor, and that's not just a one-time thing. It's an ongoing support the entire time they are receiving Spark services. And people do not close out of Spark when they get a 26 closure from EIPD. The Spark services continue through job retention, community engagement, benefit counseling, and peer mentoring, ongoing until the end of the grant, as long as people want to need it. We do provide technology to each participant. Typically, that resource guide is maintained on an iPad that we give to each participant as a way for them to assist them with filling out applications, maintaining communication, and use adaptive technology, apps and that kind of thing if they need it for, speech or whatever they need it for. And we have found that that's made a significant difference in being able to maintain contact with a lot of the participants that we have. And also there is a Spark MCO coordinator that works in the 3 MCOs that we have our programs in. So VIA, Alliance, and Trillium. And there is a person in each one of those MCOs that is tasked with helping our Spark teams establish and maintain connection and communication with other providers. If somebody that we're serving has a tailored care manager, or they have a residential provider, or they need something, that Spark coordinator is a person that we go to help make sure that we get those connections for the people that we're supporting, because we want to make sure that our staff are still focused on the frontline service delivery and not taking up with trying to navigate our service system. I'm guessing nobody is surprised by that need, so we put that in place. Next slide, please. We are also doing outreach events. We had one in September in Raleigh. We had one in January in Rocky Mount. We have one scheduled for March 17th in Pittsboro. We're trying to schedule the one in May for Rocky Mount. They're going to Raleigh in July. Chatham again in September, and then we will have our last statewide outreach event in November because our grant winds down in 2027. So we don't want to actually bring somebody in that we can't provide services to in the long term. Next slide, please. Okay, we love success stories. We gather them all the time. We have a website, it's Project Spark North Carolina on Facebook. You can go and we publish success stories all the time. We also report them to RSA, the Rehabilitation Services Administration, which is part of the Department of Education. and they are our funder. So we share these with them, and we love it when they publish them nationally. This is a success story for Clifton. He's supported by TCI, and the feedback that we get from the manager at Pizza Hut in Roanoke Rapids is that he is just a great addition to their team, and he is so happy that he is working in this place, and he really loves his coworkers. So we just thought we'd share that with you. And he's just sampling the job. So when we start services, we do a job sample. A job sample is when somebody goes and tries out something for like an hour or so to decide if that's something that they want to do. And so we do that as part of our assessment component at the beginning of services. So we do a job shadow and a job sample, especially for people who are saying, I'll take any job, because that never works out. Next slide, please. I think that's the last of mine. Okay, Alma, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you, Bridget. I think we have a hand up. Do we want to let her ask questions?
I think what we'll do is try to keep questions at the end of the presentation, if that's okay with everybody. So, Alma, if you'd like to go ahead with
Okay.
what you want to talk about next, and we're teeing up to get questions in a few minutes.
Okay. Well, definitely, Andrew, write the question down. We definitely want to answer it. Okay. We're excited about the interest and the opportunity to talk about our grant. Okay. So I'm going to now talk about the initiation of our mini sites. So you can go to the next slide. And when we say that, we added on Spark mini sites to provide these supports in 10 additional counties. As you have heard, the Spark program is in 3 communities, whether rural or urban or mid-size, they're in 3 communities. But of course, we're a statewide program, and we want to have the opportunity for any individual that's working in sub-minimum wage, or might be the only opportunity they have in those particular areas, to have an opportunity to get competitive integrated employment. So we began to collect data of the individuals we already have on our caseloads that have already chosen that I want to work, but need the services to accomplish that feat, that we determined that there were large caseloads on our individual developmental disability caseloads. In some offices, we had unique caseloads, or on our school caseloads, or on our adult caseloads, on our general caseloads, that we identified primary diagnosis of individual with IGD, and we wanted to highlight those 10 offices to start what we call a mini Spark. So in other words, provide those same positions and those wraparound community services in their active plan that they have with us right now. So as you can see, we identified in each region those locations that had high caseload, individuals already on the caseload, already looking for competitive integrative work. So in the East, we're working in the Wilmington office, Jacksonville, Greenville, and Wilson. And then in the Central, we have Durham, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem. And in the West, Asheville, Gastonia, and Forest City. So we had to begin to put in that infrastructure of hiring the temp positions, understanding the reporting, how the service is going to work, where our active services now, talking with those community rehab programs, which are big different than our Spark community rehab programs, to explain what that, what the service is and how it's going to enhance the services. What are the enhanced services? What are the wraparound? And how are we going to provide that support, with them through our temporary staff that we have. The only difference in Miss Bridget going through the positions available is we do not have a navigator in the mini sites. That is part of the Spark sites. But as far as we have a case manager, we have peer mentors, we have the benefits counselors, we have administrative support, and we have an employment specialist that can provide those same services within our local offices. Next slide, please. Now, the Spark sites and the EIPD mini sites is about success, right? It's a win-win-win. We have, whether it's a VR counselor, the navigator, the business relations reps, the providers, and most of all, the client wins through the Spark with the increased supports. It's about giving more supports to get to employment. We're excited to provide this in our main 3 Spark sites. But as we evolved through that 5-year grant, we realized we've got to expand this to more consumers so that they will have that same opportunity and utilize that grant to the most effective way. Next slide. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. So as you can see here, I'm going to leave it now into Claire's hands, and we will be available to answer all questions. Again, Shane and Bridget, if you want to turn on your camera, but we'll be on the no audio until somebody asks something and one of us can chime in.
Thank you so much, Alma. I love this presentation today. I think even I thought I knew a lot of things, and now I know more, which is always excellent. So thank you all so much. Our first question is from Anne, and she says, can you please describe what community engagement looks like? Who would like to answer that one? Go ahead, Bridge.
So community engagement is activities that help the people that we're supporting connect to their community. So it could be going to the grocery store or meeting friends at the library, because we have a lot of people that don't have friends and want to make friends. We try to help them make connections in their community to, the food bank or clothing resources, but really it's just about making connections in their community. And that is very much defined by each person that we're supporting and what they're looking for, what they need and what they want. But it's probably pretty much like any community engagement that you know about. It's pretty much the same thing. We actually included community engagement as part of this project based on the CATE model. So if you're familiar with that, it's not called that anymore, but it was when we wrote it. I believe that VIA has a community engagement. It's kind of a wraparound for employment. We put it in place because if somebody was in a day program, 30 to 35 hours a week, and then left the day program to go into the community to work, 10 or 15 hours a week, what was going on with them the rest of the time? We didn't want to put families in a position where they had their adult child or family member or whatever unsupported during the day. So that's why it became a wraparound service. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thanks, Bridget. Anne also asked, does outreach include working with future employers?
Well, we have outreach for us is about the people that we're supporting, but as part of our employment components, we do reach out to employers. We do make those connections with employers as we help people connect to their communities and become employed. So that's like an ongoing thing for anybody who's doing employment. So yes, we do.
Thank you. Jim would like to know, are the participants you're seeking to serve and or serving have a goal to retain employment? If unable to obtain employment due to a disability, where are those participants being referred to?
Yes, I mean, all the participants are individual consumers or clients of employment and independence for people with disabilities. These are our clients. They are approved as eligible, and they are being provided all our basic support grant services that we provide normally. But in addition, those clients are getting these wraparound services to the same supported employment, as well as the community engagement services that are provided and enhanced because of the Spark program. So it doesn't end with looking for competitive employment or keeping them in competitive employment. We work with our CIE, competitive integrative employment case managers and coordinators to ensure that we have the relationships with our LMEs, MCOs, to have the long-term support follow-up after the grant ends. That follow-up, hopefully we've established that and have that continued long-term support for the individuals that enter employment to have that. And the ones that haven't got it yet, that's still our goal. And that's how the mini sites are being, kind of brought back to the surface, or those individuals in those offices, because many of those clients, they've already selected and want to do competitive work. But for whatever reason, maybe the community employment rehabilitation program didn't have staff at the time. Maybe we didn't have a BRR. Maybe we couldn't do in our normal case what we can do now in those mini sites because we've got this extra temp employees, these employees that can provide these extra services. So the answer is EIPD, vocational rehabilitation services. This is just, just more cherry on top of our cake that we want to provide in the services we provide through EIPD.
Thank you. Jeffrey has an MBA and is highly educated and would like to know if we are hiring for good paying jobs. So I'm going to put in the chat our website where you can look for North Carolina jobs. But does anybody else want to say anything to Jeff? I'm sorry, it's Josh, not Jeff. I apologize, Josh.
Yes, I'll be happy to. We, again, too, putting the state jobs on there, you definitely can look up positions within EIPD. Also, if you're interested in being an employee through the Spark program that we're talking about here, we have opportunities for that, as well as competitive integrated employment support staff, whether it's case manager or coordinators. So, but in EIPD, we definitely have positions available with all different levels of education and experience to help assist individuals with any type of disability to go to work. So definitely do the website. If she puts my contact information at the end, reach out to me. Again, in my role as the assistant director, it is employment and staff acquisition. That's the first part of my position, is to help facilitate our hiring to our vacant positions that we have within EIPD, as well as to facilitate those positions that we can fill related to this grant or other grants that we may have available.
Thanks, Alma. We have another question. What have you discovered about challenges, barriers that may have resulted in low initial contact rates? And who are you trying to reach in the outreach events? Are prospective local employers, including current CIE employers who have capacity to expand, invited? Good questions. Really, three questions.
Bridget or Shane to do that. Yeah.
So our outreach events are really about reaching people with IDD. We do other events and other contacts with employers. That's not the focus of the outreach events the way that we are doing them now. So typically employers are are connected through other things, other approaches. I don't remember the rest of that question. Low contact, the initial contact. Yeah, the providers that we are working with initially we had to figure out who to do outreach to, where to make those connections. It wasn't something, I mean, employment providers are not necessarily marketing experts, so we had to actually do an evaluation of each community and figure out who to and where to do the outreach to. So yeah, we did have a learning curve, and there was, really slow growth for our 3 project sites. Did I miss anything? Claire, you muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I think you answered
Okay.
the questions really well. So thank you.
Sure.
And we have another question. Would the sites be open to working with community partners that offer internship models with the goal of providing skill practice and employment experience to add on to resumes when finding CIE opportunities?
Alan, do you want to take that?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I mean, it depends on if the community rehabilitation program or the provider is active vendor of ours with EIPD, and depending on if that particular service that they provide, or that job sample or that internship, does meet the need of the individual. So it still has to be the individual need of the client and the job that they're seeking, or we want to try. And that would be through whether the provider, has that relationship or can build that relationship with that employer or that vendor.
We do have supported
Mhm.
internships as part of the services that are available through Spark. Yes.
Correct.
Doesn't want to unmute me. Do you contract with benefits counselors or only hire benefits counselors in-house?
I should just leave my phone or my computer off mute. Yes, we hire our own benefit counselors. Each team has a full-time benefit counselor that is part of their team. They're not contracted. And we've been really lucky. We have had the same 3 benefit counselors, one in each one of our programs, since they started. Now, the mini sites, Alma's going to have to address that one.
Yeah, in our mini sites, all EIPD staff and consumers that work with our EIPD have access to a benefits counselor. We have positions, permanent full-time benefits counselors on our staff. We also utilize the ones from other programs that have them available, depending on what county you live, right? But it is a statewide availability for benefits counselors. It just depends on your access, depending on the county. But we have that information too through our DB 101. Thank you, Claire. Claire is on top of this. Appreciate that. So you can find out to do it on your own online, but you also can find the resource depending on what your county you're in, that they will meet with you individually. And our staff help facilitate that. Like our counselors know, we work with Easter Seals, or we work with this particular agency that provides that for us. And again, some of them are in-house that we own, or they work for us, EIPD, our benefits counselors. So it just depends on your location. But they are available, and they're available statewide. But for the project, the 3 sites, it is great that we've had those qualified individuals and certified in those 3 sites. That's great. And they, again, will stay doing that after this, because that is a great service, that they can provide.
Thank you. So another question is, and Anne, I'm very happy that we were able to help you out there. Another question is that the person is the director of CLS and supportive employment for a nonprofit agency. We are currently under a grant to assist members with employment. And this has been a struggle, as some members have reported that they are not interested in employment and would rather volunteer. Ultimately, the decision is theirs, but is there any feedback that you could provide to increase engagement? And actually, I do want you guys to answer this as well, but I also want to say that if you would like to get in touch with the Inclusion Works project team, we might be able to help you with that as well, as we have people going out to do assessments and conduct real-time interviews with folks. So I'm going to put my email in the chat this time. But Alma, Bridget, Shane, anything else you want to say about that? How is
Well, I
Spark
guess
doing
I
with
would
that?
just ditto what you just said. I mean, this opportunity to help individuals go to work, it's the whole state's charge right now. And yes, as we know, when we're working with individuals with intellectual disabilities, sometimes they have to be told in different ways. So there is styles to assist with that motivation, to assist with that understanding all the options. We're not here with the SWITC grant to take things away from anybody. We're not here to, with the community integrated employment, to pull them away from things that they've had daily, because they're fearful. You haven't done anything in a long time. You will have that. So that engagement and motivation, that's part of the whole counseling and the process and working with. For me, I'm going to advocate for EIPD because that's what our counselors do. That's what our staff do daily. Even if you've went through school, you've had jobs, you still have to be sometimes motivated because those challenges and those barriers that Shane and Bridget brought up, they happen. And then you have to be able to have those renewed conversations with individuals. And I feel confident that through the SWITC coming to EIPD and the staff that we have with EIPD, we provide that and helping everybody find their employment opportunity and giving them those supports as they need them to walk to the where they feel that they can be successful, because it's going to be different from everybody. So we want to just accentuate where they want to go, what's their individual goal. So yeah, I can't tell you how to, what's the magic words, but I can say it has to be repeated words, and it has to be supported words, and it had to be opportunities and advantages, and also just listening to what they say and how you can, tie into those successes and those market employment to them from what they say.
Can I add, in my 25 years of doing employment in North Carolina, I think that there are some influences that need to actually be, educated and convinced that employment is a real option for people, family members who are, worried about somebody losing benefits if they go to work, or somebody is afraid for the safety of the person in the community. We need to make sure as employment providers and service providers that we address those concerns. They might not just be coming from the person. They could be coming from their support staff and their family members and that kind of thing. And we cannot disregard those concerns. We need to make sure that we ask about them and make sure that we address them.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. Shane said that one of the biggest barriers was the stigma that individuals with disabilities face. In everyone's opinion, what would some of the direct, either policy or community aid, actionable things that you would recommend in support of an accepting and integrative community? Good question.
That's a heavy lift there. Where to begin? I think that history just really works against us in this space, because for so many years, people with intellectual developmental disabilities really went straight from school to some type of congregate setting. And it worked for the families because the schedules kind of mirrored what they were used to in school. And it really wasn't about the person per se, but it was really about the scenario, that safety net that people got accustomed to. And that is really difficult to break through, that mindset. I've been working in the minimum wage space since around 2015, and all the education, all of the sharing of success stories, it's only moved the needle minimally. So, and honestly, federal legislation as it relates to congregate supports and the payment of some minimum wage has backed off recently because of the pushback from families. Families have a very strong voice in this space, as well they should. But for us to continue to move that needle, we need to move beyond the notion of health and safety coming first. That's not to say I ever want to do things counter to one's health or safety, but system wide, there's always been such a focus on health and safety first, and quality outcomes. We talk about it a lot, but I don't know if we really reinforce it. I don't know if we really walk the walk in the quality outcomes piece, because we're kind of graded we're on our ability to keep one health and safety. That's what a lot of compliance looks at. So I've probably gotten way off the answer to your question, but I think in order to make that shift, we have to shift away from the focus of health and safety and really shift towards quality outcomes. And I think what we'll always find is that quality outcomes are related to employment, because really I look at life in those two buckets. We've got work and we've got everything else. So we can call it wraparound services, we can call it community engagement, we can call it whatever we want, but we work and then we do everything else: friends, family, communities, whatnot. But really shifting from, again, compliance wise, from health and safety to quality outcomes.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Yeah, that was a great question. I think we could all talk about this all day long. The next question is more practical. Do the mini sites also get technology assistance such as the iPad mentioned? The iPad that was mentioned.
The mini sites, again, many of those are our active service plans that we have with our individual clients. So all services that are available to assist individuals in going to work are still available to those individuals in the mini sites, just like they are for any consumer that works with EIPD. So if that iPad or any technology is needed to assist individuals in going to work, to increase their access, or even on the job, if we already know the job, that is a service that can be purchased and provided if they meet, our financial criteria in our local cases, regular cases, yes, at the mini sites.
You're muted, Claire.
You're muted, Claire.
I thought I was unmuted. Is there a post-secondary education component to Spark, or is that addressed on an individual basis according to their employment goals?
Yes. Yes, everything, all of our services are based on the individual and what their goals are for themselves. So it's not really, we don't really approach it as education. We approach it as living and connecting people to their communities. So we don't really think about it as post-secondary education. We just think about it as, how are we going to support this person to connect to their community in a way that makes a difference in their lives based on what their needs and interests are. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Thanks, Bridget. If a member submits an interest form for supportive employment, but has no services, what is the first step of assisting this member? Is it linking to VR?
Yes, if they, I'm not sure who they did the survey with, but if it was through North Carolina Connects Inclusion Works or Work Together NC, then of course we're going to get that referral. If that has they've started the survey, but it hadn't connected yet, then we just need to know about it. So yes, you can call EIPD, you can call me. I can find out where they're at and provide all the resources to get you to the right office. But we want any referral, anyone interested, IDD, any disability that's impeding against their ability to work. We want to be able to determine if they're eligible for our services and provide not only Spark services, grant what we're here today talking about, but just EIPD services that help them to go to work. So yes, please make contact with the local EIPD office if you know where that is. But if you don't, write me. I will get you to them quick as I can.
Hey. And I'll just remind people, I did put Alma's email
Mhm.
address in the chat for you to access there.
Mhm.
Another person asks if it says that it's not specifically related to Project Spark, but more so just a general question.
Mhm.
Now that VR changed their name to EIPD, are there plans to change the word consumer to use person first language such as person receiving services, participant, individual, etc.? We find that it gets confusing when we try and use person first language on documentation in our facility, but staff insists the documentation for EIPD has to use the word consumer.
Well, I'm not gonna say that we like determine or say that everybody have to use the word consumer, because when people are writing progress notes or forms, I'm not sure what you're talking about directly, but you will hear people say clients, you'll hear people say participants, you'll hear people say consumers. There's no hard word fast, but we do believe with in our title, in our change to our new title, we did that to talk about person with disabilities because we want to be very clear about we want to help with employment and independence for people with disabilities. And we didn't, so whatever then other word you use to describe that whole group or those individuals, I usually pick consumer. That's just a word I've always said when I present. But you very well may see client, you very well, and when they talk to individuals, you may hear participant. But as far as our change in our forms or how it prints out, I'm not really sure the question exactly, but I'll be glad to talk to you more about that if that is something that um, will assist you in providing and referring people to us.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left and I'm going to try to get to all of the questions, but I do want to say if we didn't get to your question today, please know that you can reach out to myself or Alma, Bridget and Shane. Maybe you want to put your emails in the chat as well. We definitely want to be able to get to your question if we didn't hit it today before we close up. Anne would like to know what kind of barriers have you run into engaging people with IDD? And we're wondering if guardians and families have been supportive. Great question.
Sorry, I was
Mhm.
typing. Can I take this one?
Yes.
I think that there are barriers everywhere. I think families, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying about how do we get people engaged in employment when they want to volunteer instead? I think that well, in order for us to actually move forward with getting people with disabilities employed in their community, making minimum wage or better is really about what Shane was talking about, changing the way that we are looking at serving people with disabilities. Part of that is ongoing education of expectations for families and service providers. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was, 12 years old and somebody asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I had to have an answer because, there was no other option than getting a job. Why is that different? Why is there a different expectation for people that have disabilities? The services are there, the jobs are there. We just have to figure out as a society, how do we support that person to do a job, to, to hold a job, to earn a living, to pay taxes like the rest of us. People with disabilities are people first, the expectation should be the same. That's my answer. Might not be politically correct or universally agreed upon, but that's my answer.
A great way to wind us up there, Bridget. So I apologize. Some of you we did not get a chance to answer all of your questions. These are fantastic questions. So what I really do suggest is that you message any one of us, and we will try to get answers to your questions as soon as we can. We really appreciate the fact that there are so many of you here today. We know that Spark is one of the most exciting projects the state is doing, and we want to make sure everyone hears as much about this as they want to and can participate wherever they can. I'm going to hand it back to you, LaToya, and thank you again, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Claire. The recording and presentation slides for today's event will be posted on the Inclusion Works website. For more information and resources, stay connected with Inclusion Works by attending our Lunch and Learns, visiting our website, and joining our mailing list. The links are included in the chat. There will be a brief survey following today's webinar, and we will appreciate your time completing it. The next Lunch and Learn will be on Wednesday, March 18th at noon, and we will hope that you can join us. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for attending.